Hello there, welcome back to the channel. It's been ages since we posted last on the channel, and I'm happy that we're back once more to continue with our discussion about research and publications. In today's discussion, we'll be looking at research papers. Research papers. So, when research papers are mentioned, what should come to your mind should be the outcome of research studies. So when you engage in any study and you're able to obtain results from the study, and you're also able to draft the manuscript based on the outcome of your study, your manuscript, when published, becomes a research paper. So research papers are based on the outcome of your research work, and it should have an acceptable way of presentation. Different journals have different ways and numbering that they accept for publications, and it's good to look out for different journals and the scope before preparing your manuscript. Although it is advisable for you to scan through all journals that are prospective journals for your papers before writing, so that you have an idea of which one to send your work first, right? There are so many journals, and it's expected of you to send your work to a particular one at a time, right? And not to send to 2 or 3 journals. If you send to 2 or 3 journals, what if 2 or 3 of them accept your manuscript for publication? What would you do? And if it becomes a journal that publishes without even getting back to know if there are corrections or not, you may end up in a state of dilemma. So you wouldn't want to find yourself in that situation. So acceptable way of presenting research papers, right? Previously, we have distinguished between manuscript and paper. So if it is a manuscript, it is a draft that you're sending for consideration, right? That is called a manuscript. But if it is a paper, it means that the manuscript had been accepted and published. So the published work is the paper, right? So we are considering research papers. Research papers would have to have these sections, acceptable sections. One is the abstract. Abstract is key. Abstract, like we continue to say, is the section of your research paper that houses the key elements of your study. So you have a direction for the study. It's good to articulate that in the abstract. You carried out the study using different methods. It's good to add it in the abstract. You had vital results and the trend that the results were observed to take. Include that in the abstract concisely, right? And you have a few recommendations that you intend to make to direct future researchers. Future scholars are willing to look at your work and also see suggestions that you made which could refocus their research. You may have figured out areas you didn't venture into, which you may have loved to, do, if not because of some certain restrictions. It could be as a result of time. The limit of time that you expected maybe to carry out your study had elapsed, and you are desirous of conducting that, but because of the want of time, you're not able to continue. You may recommend that for future researchers to undertake. It may also be as a result of non-availability of facilities. You may not have facilities to carry out all the experimentations you may wish to conduct. So it is also part of the abstract to include some recommendations which you deem necessary that future researchers should know. So if somebody that is willing to embark on a similar study, he might not even go back to what you have studied except for validation. He may just go straight to what you recommended, right? To see if he can extend to the knowledge that you have provided in the first instance. So that is the abstract. And another section of the research paper is the introduction. The introduction is what should be made to capture the interest of whoever that reads your work. So in the introduction, there should be a background information about your study. The core areas of your engagement must be articulated and explained to the understanding of a layman. So you prepare your introduction by writing about the background of your study. And you must have identified gaps in knowledge. We said it earlier that before you embark on a study, you conduct literature review. You consult different literatures in that area to be able to pinpoint areas they didn't venture into. Instead of repeating what somebody else had done, it's good you do your own to bring out the novelty of your study. So you're not going back to do what they have done, but you're studying what they have done, and you're thinking about a way to design your research in such a way that you could come up with a result with which to compare with previous studies, not actually doing the same thing, but you're designing your own research to solve or provide solution to a particular gap in knowledge. So after obtaining your result, giving solution or answers to the gap, the identified gap in knowledge, you can now compare your results with previous studies. So the introduction will capture the background information, the problem that you were able to identify while carrying out literature review, and also the objectives of your study. How do you intend to embark on this research and come out with something meaningful? So the objectives of your study will conclude your introduction. Then the next section is the methodology. So the methods that you were able to undertake to be able to get relevant information relating to your study should be part of the methodology. So methodology is basically materials and methods. So those materials and methods that helped you to undertake your study should be properly written and done in such a way to encourage repeatability. So somebody from elsewhere may look at your work and feel like doing the same thing to validate your results. So methodology is key. You must do that with a sense of openness and articulate valuable information that enabled you to undertake the study. So what it means is, if you didn't use the standard method to do your work, it's also expected of you to provide information about what you actually used, what methods you actually used for your work. So if you improvised, for instance, say how you were able to do that, what you were able to get, the dimensions of accessories that you were able to provide for the study. So you should be able to articulate all those in your methods, materials and methods. And finally, you have results and discussion. So the results and discussion aspect or section of your study is where you present the results that you have obtained, that your study was able to obtain, right? So when you have your results, after mentioning the outcome of your study, the results that you were able to get and the trend of development, the trend that your results took, it is good to discuss the results now. You discuss the results by comparing your own outcome, your own results with previous studies that are similar to what you have done. So if your own was this, what did Mr. B get doing something maybe with the materials that you used or with the methods that you used? right? Compare the results. Know why your own was in agreement or disagreement with previous works similar to what you have done. And then give reasons if you were able to identify some discrepancies. Could it be as a result of the method that you took? Was it as a result of one step that you initiated in the process of producing your sample or something? So you should be able to tell what actually happened, why your result is not in consonance with previous work relating to that. So now your results, when obtained using your methodology, would be acceptable without any alteration, whether good or bad in comparison with previous studies. What you just need to do is to compare your own outcome with previous studies relevant to your own study. So you don't need to reject your findings or your results because it is not in agreement with previous studies relating to that, right? What you get is unique, so treat it as such. And the last thing you do is to conclude your research paper. And how to do that is to conclude each of the objectives, because you articulated the objectives, right? And you, of course, you have the aim of the study, and the objectives, the specific objectives, would help you to arrive at that aim, right? So what you need to do in the conclusion section is to pick the objectives and conclude. Each of the objectives must be concluded. So if your objective number one is to assess maybe the effect of this on this, the conclusion should have the results that you obtained after studying or investigating that particular objective. So you give results of your findings in a concise manner, because the major thing, the explanation and discussion, could be found in the body of the work. But in the conclusion section, you just need to be concise with the results obtained after accomplishing a particular objective. So if you have 3 objectives, you are expected to have a minimum of 3 conclusions saying what you were able to get when accomplishing each of the objectives. And finally, the references. I've talked about using Zotero to manage your references. So managing references is key in preparing your manuscript for publication. If you want to watch the video about using Zotero to manage your references, you can click up here. The video might just be here, up here, for you to get and watch the video on how to use Zotero to manage your references while writing your research articles for publication. Now it's good to know about the highlight of what we have discussed. First, we said that research papers are papers that are prepared based on research findings, right? So when you prepare them, it has to be in this order: the abstract, the introduction, the methodology, which is materials and methods, the results and discussion, and finally conclusion. And of course, you must have references. And so bye bye for now. I look forward to having you in the next video.